Good morning, folks. Back in the day when I was an elementary teacher, I used to have my students practice multiplication, and I had paper sheets, and the kids would run through these. We'd do it as a timed practice, and then I'd have to pick up all the sheets, and I'd have to correct them all, and give them back to the students, and that was a lot of work. So I've developed one that's digital. Here's how it works. This is my template. The template is a set of rand between numbers between 0 and 9. And what happens is anytime a change is made on this sheet, for instance, you click the checkbox. And by the way, the checkbox on the template shows and hides their score. So when they're working on it, they can do this, then they can see their score. But notice every time you click that, the numbers change. So we use that to develop a unique sheet for each student. What we have to do then is get a roster of students. I have some on my clipboard. And then what we do is we run my make practice sheet script. And what that does is it creates a new sheet, and it's a unique sheet for each student. You can see what's happening. Every time a change is made on these sheets, these numbers are changing, and what's happening here is I've created all the sheets, and now it's going through a second part of the script is going through and removing the random numbers and making them static. And so we're watching as James is the last sheet, and he's as all the other sheets are getting caught up here, James's sheet is constantly changing, but there we go, and now it's done. And there we go. And we come back to my roster. Here's my roster. Here's my students. So the next step then is to come and have the students start to take their tests. So this is set up so they would type in the answer 8, 0, 2, 6. And if this student, Barbara, wants to see how she's doing, she clicks that and she can see she's got 3 correct, 1 incorrect. Back here on the roster sheet, the teacher is watching in real time as these 10 students are taking their tests. And just to show you, if I came to Betty, and Betty's, 2 times 5 is 10, 10, 0, 0, 0, 24. Betty can check her scores. She's got 6 correct. The teacher is now watching as Betty's going along. I can't really show you this, but if I had pushed this out to this group of students and I was at my desk, I could be sitting at the roster and just watching in real time as these charts grow. So that's how the test is done. Then the next step is that when we finish, and we would have this roster would have scores for all these students. And then what we might want to do is get rid of all of these, because tomorrow I want the students to all have a different set of tests. So what my next step would be is, first of all, I want to archive the data that I have today. One of the things I can do, and generally my template is generally hidden. I had it open to show you that, and my archive is generally hidden. So now if I run, and then once you've run this and use the info sheet, you can hide it. So really this is what I would have up as a teacher, and then I would come to my utilities and I would save the scores as a PDF. Now what that's doing is running a script. It's done. I'm going to come to my folder, and let's see, it's 7:57 right now, so I'm going to open this PDF, and here's a PDF of Barbara, Betty. So this is a printable document that once the students took the test and they could click the checkbox, and then they would see their scores, and you have a record of this. It's actually saved, as you can see, into my Google Drive folder. That information is shown here on our info screen. I talk about what you need to do is paste your URL of your Drive folder right here, and then on your sheet, and then automatically this regex formula extracts just the ID, and my script reads this to put your ID and writes the file back to your folder. So we have that, and then the next step I might want to do on this score here is save these scores. So let me show you what our archive function looks like. I'm going to run backup roster, and that's going to take the scores and bring them back over to the data that we have here. And we can see Barbara and Betty, we have some scores on 915. And when we do that, I think I have to fix something here. This pivot table was hiding. I got to select all, and the reason I was doing that is now I can see Barbara and Betty. We've got these scores for all of these students. This is keeping track of the, and I guess my chart's changing as well. But once you set this up for yourself, and if you're testing the same students, this pivot table is bringing in all the data and letting you sort of assess where these students are on this. The reason this is not my chart's grown, so this is H2 to or F2 to H17 because I've added some new students, and if I do that, then I can see, my Kitty Lewis, Mike, Barbara, Betty. I would get my list of students in there. That's just another way to look at the archive data. I'll go ahead and hide that sheet again. So we've written that data off to archive. So now I feel comfortable that I could start over. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all the extra tabs. And what that's going to do is get rid of all the tests that we did today. My roster is back to blank. And if I needed to clear my roster, I would clear my roster. And there I am back to the same place we started when we began this tutorial. We have 3 hidden sheets, our archive sheet. We have our template. And I do have one test sheet that you need to keep in there. This test sheet is basically just being used on my roster sheet in a hidden column here. And the reason I needed to do that is I have some formulas here that my script copies down, and those need to remain there. So do not delete that set of rows. And you do not want to include the data of test in the chart, as it would skew the results. So that's it. There's an info sheet to help you get started. This is a pretty complete system that lets you create a list of students, create a set of tests, random tests for each one. We're going to go ahead and we keep this hidden. We keep this hidden. We keep the archive. You can show and hide the archive if you need. And we could even write a script to do that so you could look at your archive. But we hide the archive because when you go to run this backup or save scores, you really don't want to have the archive in there. You want to just have the scores, the main page of the main student here, and the test scores for each student that you could, like I say, print. Let me know what you think, and there will be a link to make a copy of this template in the YouTube video.